I think that he has reached a point now, not only where his fighting style is entertaining, even if he's making decisions, it's entertaining. The fans love him. He's a likable guy. He's a champion that does everything the right way. He's a champion that's never going to fail a drug test. He's a champion that's never going to cheat. He's a champion that you're never going to hear him getting pulled over for a DUI or for this or for that. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He's got all of his ducks in a row, and now he's playing the game. And I do think that it has changed. I do think even at this event, talking to some of the higher ups, they love him, and I really think he's earned it by doing what he needs to do. And I think that, he really has a big chance of getting the push to become a megastar now.
It is always my great pleasure to speak to one of the top coaches in all of mixed martial arts, and he's got plenty of reason to celebrate today because Merab Dvalishvili went out, not only beat Sean O'Malley, tapped him out in the third round, finished him just as his coach said he would. It is always my great pleasure to speak to John Wood. John, how are you?
Like you said, man, I'm doing great. Lots of things to be happy about today, and it couldn't have gone any better.
You told me beforehand, because I asked you that question when you're going into what is essentially an automatic rematch for Sean, and you already beat the guy. Like, how do you get up for that? How do you get motivated for that? And you said, I promise you, Merab is motivated. I don't need to motivate this guy. And you could argue to a certain extent, I guess, Sean had a better performance. He did shut down some takedowns here and there, but to go out and do what he did and just negate Sean at every turn and then tap him out in the third round, like, I don't know, outside of maybe going out there and knocking him out in the first round, I don't know that you could have written a better script for this fight.
Yeah, 100%. And I do believe that knockout was an option. I don't know if everybody noticed, but he was touching him pretty good and rocked him a couple times. The goal, again, is finish however we can finish. Win the fight. First goal is to win the fight. But the things that Merab does and the things that Merab brings to the table, and I caught a lot of shit for it the other day of saying that I truly believe we could have finished the last 3 fights. No problem. There are moments in all those fights where the fighter broke and they didn't want to be there anymore. And they do things, whether it's subconsciously or they're seeing it, where they don't want to be there, and they give options and opportunities to get out of there. And Rob just doesn't look for him. He's at that moniker of I'm going to be decision, so that's what I'm going to do. Now we've got him looking for those opportunities. We've got him looking for when that person goes, shit, man, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Here's my neck. And I don't think they're actually thinking that in their head, but there's moments and times in fights where he just goes, this sucks. And now he's seeing those opportunities and creating those opportunities. So mark my word, this won't be the first and only submission. There will be knockouts. There will be TKOs. He's still getting better. And I think that, Sean did better, but I mean, Sean defended takedowns in the first one. Sean defended things in later in the rounds in the first fight. And as a coach, it's my job to, like I said, figure out what in a rematch, what they think they're going to do better. And we have to change and adjust and change those strategies and change those timings. And it worked out perfectly, and the thing with Merab is that if you try to play it this way, then we're going to play it that way, and it's very hard to out chess match him because he has that motor and he is just getting better. So he's going to beat you wherever we need to beat you.
You mentioned that in the last few fights, you've seen the moment when a guy breaks against Merab. I think we recognized it very clearly in the Umar fight when it happened. In this one, I'll tell you the moment I saw, and I think it was when Merab picked up Sean and carried him over and dropped him because he had focused so hard on stopping that takedown that when Merab just lifts him up, and I mean this with all due respect, like a child, just chucks him. I'm like, that is mentally debilitating to have an opponent do that to you when you fought so hard not to go down. Am I right in thinking that was maybe the moment that he broke him, or did you see a different moment? You saw Sean change?
I think that was the start of it. I think even, in round 1, there was some success where I told Merab this whole camp, there's going to be a moment real quick when he gets out there and goes, shit, this feels very oddly similar, but worse. And I think that happened after the first round. But yes, when another man picks you up like a child and carries you and throws you down and does whatever, and it just seems like nothing you're doing is working, there's just no way to not feel a certain way. And, Merab's just got Sean's number. And that happens sometimes in fights and styles. And we added a lot of different layers to that onions as far as like, hey, he's going to defend this way. So we're going to do this and do that and do this. So, we got 3 or 4 different types of takedowns in this fight. Just little things that might need to be seen to the eye where he was defending really well. And we transitioned to something that led to something else. So, when you have a fighter, like I said, Merab is still green in MMA. I'll still say this. He's still learning. There's still so much further he can go in MMA, in his MMA IQ, that's a scary thing, man, because he learns and absorbs like a sponge. So you have to just be careful of what you teach him and what you tell him, because what you teach him and what you tell him, he's going to go out there and he's going to do it. So it was, I believe that was definitely the beginning of the end for that position. As once somebody picks you up like that and has their way with you, it's kind of hard not to be a little demoralized.
When you go into a rematch, when you had the first fight with Sean, I don't care how many face-offs you do. Standing in the cage is different. When you got a guy, you got to feel his reach, you got to feel his power. You just got to feel things out a little bit more. And again, I thought Merab clearly won. At worst 4-1 in the last fight. That's the worst. Is 4-1.
Yeah.
But Dom really won the fight. No question, he won the fight. And I mean this as I say with the utmost respect. And please correct me if I'm wrong. But I felt like this time Merab went out there almost like he didn't fear anything from Sean. Like he attacked him on the feet, and that's the area where Sean is supposed to be the best, right? Like he's a sniper. They said that during the broadcast like 10 times. He's a sniper. He's a sniper. Merab came after him on the feet in a way that he didn't do in the first fight. He took him down in different ways he did the first fight. Am I right in thinking like there was almost like and as I said, I mean this with all due respect, he didn't fear anything from Sean in this fight, maybe different than the first fight when he had to feel him out a little bit more just because he hadn't been in there with him.
Yeah, Merab is special. And people are, I believe, now starting to realize that his timing, his vision, the way he listens and learns, he's special. So he can adapt to anyone at any point in time. He figures it out. He downloads, he computes, and he does it on the go. And he does it in a chaotic, hectic manner. Again, we're getting each camp getting better, unlocking little things like, really said it 2 or 3 fights ago, the narrative was he was chinny. So everybody thought Sean was just going to knock his head off. The dude's been rocked one time in a fight. The reason he's kind of been hit and stumbled around, his footwork's crap. I've said this before. Now his footwork is solid. Now he's sitting down on punches. And I guarantee you, some of them punches he landed on Sean hurt, and so he's just unlocking all these doors that are opening up to different doors, and when he gets out there and once Merab realizes that he has you, oh boy, it's off to the races. So I don't think I've ever had a fighter that downloads and computes so fast and so good. When he gets out there, he feels it out the first minute or two. He's as soon as whatever you're doing, he's just downloading the information. And then once he goes, oh, okay, I've got this. This feels good. It's off to the races and it's full steam ahead. We went in, and that was part of my process in this fight was to make sure, like, hey, this guy's doing all these things. He's doing all this stuff. He's stopped smoking. He's a family man now. He's off social media. All that great. That's great. But those are things that you're doing to play catch up. Merab's been doing that since day one. So he doesn't have to go back to the start and retrain himself to do all these things without those vices or deals. He's been doing what he needs to do as a champion for a long time. So again, there was no change in camps. There was no, different training partners or teams or coaches brought in. So it's like, listen, I think Tim's a great coach, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's a young coach, and he's going to bounce back from this, and he's going to be a really, really good coach. From here on out, I'm sure he'll bring up some other guys. But there are levels to this, and there's things where it's like, how much are you really going to be able to change and do? And Sean is who he is. Sean does what he does. Like you can only be an elite sniper and strike so much that if you work on so much of your wrestling defense and these things, it's going to affect how you fight. And that's what we look on doing is, hey, get him to strike, get him to do these things. The only way he's going to win is being able to throw at you. And when he does that, that's when we'll beat him at that game. But not only will we beat him at that game, but we're going to make him pay and take him down. So it's just, It really wasn't hard. He's motivated. And I said, once you get Merab past the weight cut, you will never see a happier individual to get into a cage. He is the one guy that absolutely loves it, like loves it. He loves going out there ready to go. I've never seen anybody more locked in and focused once the weight cut's done. And it doesn't matter who it is. He's going to be motivated to fight you.
I know you can never say never in this sport because weird things happen. But I said this to you before the fight. I said part of the danger of booking this is O'Malley loses again. He's now completely out of the title picture, and there's no argument coming out of this one. He got tapped out in the third round after losing the first two rounds. So, like I said, this one somehow went worse than the first one. And I said that's the danger. Again, you can never say never, but in your mind, sitting here right now, there is no more Sean O'Malley. Like now you've officially moved past him, and now he's got to figure out kind of where he goes, right? Because like he's not going to get back to Merab, and as long as Merab's champion, you're not getting so like now because this was always the circle because Sean was the star. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anyone's going to deny his star power, but now you've kind of set him aside, and it's I know they only fought once, but it's like after Khabib did what he did to Conor, we didn't really need to see that a second time. It wasn't a close fight. Like he pretty much mauled Conor and then tapped him out in whatever it was third or fourth round. We don't need to see Sean O'Malley in there with Merab for a third time. I don't see any reason why that would ever happen unless just something really bizarre, I guess. But in the realm of reality, we don't need to see it again.
Yeah, in the realm of reality, I would say we're not going to see it again. In the realm of the UFC and them deciding on, listen, a win always changes everything. If O'Malley goes out there and starches the next guy, everybody's going to jump back on the bandwagon. Oh my God, see, and he'll come out and they might say, well, see, when I fought Merab the second time, I'm not saying they've said this, but like I had an injured foot or this, they'll start creating that narrative to maybe get back. And then one or two more knockouts. And man, come on, you know how things work. If the UFC sees that as they can get behind it at their marketing machine and make dollars and cents out of it, then they'll do it. Like you are not in the business of rankings of this guy, the best guy should always fight the next best guy, and the next best guy should fight, to the champion. That's not the way it goes. So I do see a potential of him like being back in the mix after some time. Now, obviously, I think he's got to go. He's got a path. He's got to climb. I don't think it's one fight or two fights or three fights, but he can make it happen. There's a lot of big fights out there for him now. Now, there's not a lot of great fights I see out there for him right now, but the O'Malley Cejudo fight makes sense. That's one he can go out and he could probably win that one. And, and then who knows? I mean, what was it? Figueiredo and Moreno, we saw them fight 15 times and people, were, why are we watching this? But those are the next two best guys. I don't think Sean is going to be the next best guy for a while. I think there's other guys, so that would be the thing that I think, keeps him. He would have to go through a murderer's row and beat all those guys pretty handily to get back. So as far as with them, 145, those guys are big. Those guys, and O'Malley does have the size and the range, but he'd have to stack on some muscle. He doesn't have a very big frame from what I see, so that might not be the smartest thing. But I think there's a lot of good fights for him, that he can win at 35 and then figure it out from there. Go win a couple more and then make that decision. He's obviously a very talented fighter that people want to watch. I don't think that, like I said, one more knockout, he goes out and gets a viral knockout. All this kind of, he could be back in the mix, or at least the talks.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone define Merab better than what Sean said after the fight when he said Merab is an MFer. I was like, he just, the way he said that, he's just like, oh my God, that guy is I was like, that might be the best. Like they need to put that on a t-shirt. Cause I was like, that is literally the best way to describe Merab Dvalishvili. I was like, Sean O'Malley got it. He gets the quote of the night for that one.
Yeah, for sure. And he really is. I told, there's a lot of people I've told this camp was a phenomenal camp. It was a camp where he leveled up so much more than any other camp because he keeps taking what he learned from the last camp and piling it on and learning. So it's just constantly, there is no reset. He's constantly getting better. But like I said, we had a tough time keeping partners in there with him, keeping him healthy. This was a violent camp. My body, I think I lost years on my life in this camp. Like my intestines, my ribs, my guts, like from the body shots that I've taken, the partners, where it was like we keep one or two in for the whole time. Now we're having to have 3 or 4 people on standby, just pure exhaustion and being beat. The fact he's subbing guys, the fact he's stopping guys on the feet. It was a violent camp. Merab he is something special.
So now it's funny because like when Merab was making his rise up, everyone was just kind of banging the drum saying Merab needs to get a title shot. And obviously we knew for a while there it was the Aljamain thing. Aljamain got out of the way, and now it's been Merab, and he's taken out Sean O'Malley twice, and he also took out Umar, who a lot of people, probably myself included, would argue that was the toughest matchup, and he beat Umar as well. I do a podcast with Matt Brown, and Matt Brown has been on the Merab train for a very, very long time. And we just did a podcast earlier today, and I said, I think the conversation is over about who is the greatest bantamweight of all time. It is Merab Dvalishvili. That's not even a conversation. Yeah. But what Matt said, and he's kind of bringing me around on this, he's like, I think now we're talking about the ceiling of when do we start putting Merab in the greatest of all time conversation? What does he need to do? Because when you look at his resume, and he made a good point, he's taken out so many former champions, Jan, Aldo, Cejudo, and that's before he became champion. Now he's taken out O'Malley a couple times. He's like, I think that's where we're going now. It's no longer is he the greatest bantamweight. That conversation's done. He's like, now I think we need to start talking about like putting him in the same conversation as John Jones, George St. Pierre, Khabib. Are we wrong thinking that?
I think where we're currently at is now the pound for pound talk. I think we are pound for pound, right there, top 3. And I think that, and I'm probably going to get shit for this, just like I said, he's the GOAT at bantamweight. Everybody jumped on, okay, well, here we are. And I think that he is now pound for pound conversation of, man, like, everything now kind of when you're the champion, how you get to be the GOAT or the legend is just defending that title. If you can have a title reign that spans past what anybody could even think or comprehend you were able to do, that's where that happens. So I think we are on that track, and I think we are on, going down that road for sure. But we just need more title defenses. We need more time in title defenses. And I think you talk about, 3 or 4 more. I don't think there's any question. The body of work, you can't say the greatest of all time. John Jones has taken out every single legend there was in the sport, every single great guy there was in the sport. Those were high-level killers at the time that he does. So I still think that he holds it by far to me for anyone. Now, if he retires, that I feel like that can be caught pretty quick by someone like Merab, who's wanting to fight 3 or 4 times. But, I would still put John up there. And you might have some asterisks in that situation. I understand that. Islam, I think we would pass Islam, no problem. I think that we're going to be second to John Jones here pretty quick, and then and catching up to him. So I think it really just comes down to, I think we're already in the pound for pound title mix, or contention mix. And I would say that we need some more time there. Like he's done something amazing, but I think it's just time as champion defending that belt is where that's going to come from.
One thing we all love about Merab is his willingness to fight. And we just saw it this past week, and he says, yeah, I want at least a couple more title defenses. And I think we all know the next most likely candidate is going to be Cory Sandhagen. I love Cory. I think Cory's a monster, incredibly nice guy. I know they had that really cool interaction backstage. Yep. And I think in terms of like best dudes in the sport, Cory Sandhagen's near the top. Really, really good dude. But I said to you a minute ago, and I'll stand by it right here, I think the one guy I thought was the toughest matchup for Merab was Umar, and he already beat Umar. Am I wrong in thinking? I want to be clear when I say this. Everyone's got a chance. It's a fight. You know what I mean? Like you could throw me in there with Merab, and somehow I could like twist around and fall down and hit him. I understand.
Let's not get ridiculous now, dude. Come on, listen.
but like realistically. Like you could argue he's already beaten the toughest guy. So now it's just a matter of like him. So all due respect to Cory Sandhagen, do you see him as a difficult matchup for Merab?
Listen, I'm a fan of Cory Sandhagen. I love watching his fighting style. He's an interesting guy. He does different dynamic stuff. And I think he's a great fighter. And I think he's deserving of the next spot. Him or Jan, I think those are the 2 names that would be on the board. Do I think that he comes out and beats Merab? Absolutely not. I think that we can devise a game plan. I think we've kind of seen that style and mixes of different things. But with that being said, he's a dangerous fighter. He does tricky, different things, but so does Merab. And that's where people look at someone like Merab and look at his style. Oh, it's just this. It's just that grindy, gritty thing. And they're going to start saying different things about that. Where you have Sandhagen over here, who's this flashy, like slick. He's got some amazing footwork and timing and jumping knees and all this crazy stuff. But we do too. It's just done differently. So I think that what Merab can do will counteract all of those things. And I think it's a great chess match and it'll be fun. It'll be a great time to game plan against. But absolutely, I do not see that fight, going Sandhagen's way. And I think Merab, obviously holds on to that belt for a while.
And I don't know if you even saw it because I'm sure you're probably backstage warming up, but there was a lot of talk going into the week about Patchy Mix coming in. Patchy's trained a lot with Merab. They are friends. They're they're not in the same situation as Aljamain and Merab were, but they were buddies. And I know from talking to Merab always praised Patchy, and when I talked to Patchy, he would always praise Merab. But we just saw this past weekend, like it is a different level being in the UFC, and Patchy lost. And I guess you could kind of insert, Mario Batista deserves some recognition. Like he's on an 8-fight win streak, or whatever. But that is the difference. Like everyone was like, oh, Patchy. Now that's not an option. So it's kind of like Cory Sandhagen, and then now we're starting to talk about, can Mario maybe win one more and get in there? Because then you are really talking about rematches because he's already beaten everyone.
Absolutely. And I said that from the beginning. Everybody was on the Patchy Mitch thing, which Patchy makes, and I understand that he's a great fighter and he comes, he's a champion from different organizations. But again, there are levels to this thing. And I know that, Patchy has gone out and they've rolled with Merab plenty of times and done jujitsu and done these things. And, he's gone on and said that like gyms in Vegas, fear him and don't want him inside the gyms because he's such a this and such a that. And I said, I like Patchy, but there are levels to this. And I didn't think at any point in time in any interview that I did that Batista was any kind of easy out. That dude is tough. I've cornered against him a couple times. And he is a freaking tough out. That guy will make you look bad, and I think it's a combination of a couple things with Patchy. I think that first time jitters are obviously they're a real thing in the UFC. The UFC is different. The UFC is a monster. And when you go out to an arena like that, that was top 3 loudest arenas I've ever been in. I could barely hear, our corner talking to each other. It was crazy. I lost my voice in the second round. That kind of energy. And then when you build yourself up like Patchy did to basically say he's the next coming to the bantamweight title, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to go out there and perform. And I don't know what happened. I'm not part of his camp. I don't know, but I could guess that I think it's a mixture of that pressure potentially got there. Batista not being an easy out at all. And, there are different levels to the fight game. And the UFC has shown time and time again that there's not been very many people that come over and have a great first run or great, because these guys come over and they're always fighting the top of the top. They're always fighting. You're a champion from another organization. It's almost kind of like the UFC wants to prove, hey, we want you. We don't necessarily want you coming in here and just, walking over our guys so that you can go shoot, and I don't think that's happened. I'm not sure that that's happened with anybody. So, I think it's just a combination of a lot of things.
Do you notice, and I you spent a lot of time, Merab, in camp, in fights, around fight week. You could say maybe a year and a half ago, it was almost like Merab had a weird relationship with the UFC where Dana, would say things about Merab. And obviously we saw with the Umar thing, like, why are you putting that cut on the internet, blah, blah, blah. But it feels like with beating Umar and then not even blinking at taking the O'Malley rematch, a lot of guys, I think, and by the way, if Merab said, why do I need to fight O'Malley again? I just beat him 7 months ago. I don't think anyone could really complain about that, but he didn't do that. He said, give me O'Malley, give me Jersey, we'll do it again. He goes out there, beats him worse, taps him out. Have you noticed the shift in like the relationship with not only Merab and the fans? Because, I do appreciate the fans really got behind him when O'Malley was like, I need to fight Ilia Topuria. And everyone's like, hold on now, you need to fight Merab. But it seems like the relationship with Merab and the fans and Merab and the UFC has kind of changed in this last like 8 or 9 months. Have you noticed that?
100%. Listen, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes with management, with, we just not only just picking these fights, but taking fights and things. And yeah, I'll agree. Merab's been, at Syndicate for about 5 years now, is when he started, maybe a little bit longer. And part of the process of him coming over, when he really decided to say, I'm here, I'm part of the team, I had a conversation with him. And it really started after Jan of like, listen, Merab, the whole Aljo and Merab thing kind of came just from him saying, I don't want to do this. Well, great. When you say that and there's potential for a fight there, guess what? The UFC is going to go, yeah, we want you to do that because it drives up views and numbers and things. And so, they created that whole thing, a beef between them that didn't even need to be, need to be there. But there was a point in time where there is a sit down that happens and says, hey, to fulfill your potential of being a champion, to do what you need to do, you have to play the game. There's a lot more that goes into this sport than just being the best guy on the mat, being the best guy in the room, being the toughest, sharpest. You have to learn to play the game. And the UFC has proven it time and time again that they are the best at doing what they do, and they will continue to do what they do, how they do it, how they want to do it. And if you don't get on board with that, there are sometimes repercussions for that. So he really did start kind of making the switch with the Cejudo deal of like, because at that point in time we were in the title contention there. And, when he got the offer of doing one more, he's like, man, I feel like I should get the title now. I'm like, listen, don't just go out there, take it as a gift. You get to fight another former champion. You get to do this. And he really kind of got on board with that and really started switching how he was talking, how he was dealing with the UFC. And then, obviously his social media started to blow up, and he really is that guy. Rob is the nicest, funniest, loving dude. He will sign every freaking autograph, talk to every single person. He loves it. He will go out and do every event. He never says no. I've seen him so many times. It takes us hours to get places when we're with him because he'll jump out of the van and just start signing people in the street corner, and then a herd comes and he won't turn anybody down. So he really has played the game. The Umar thing, it was pretty touch and go when we got the Umar fight because they wanted us to fight at this time and we weren't healthy. We weren't ready. And Rob said, I'll fight Umar. I just want it at this time. But they really wanted Umar and for Ramadan, and they were really pushing the fight. We need to have it before Ramadan and this and that, and understandably so, but he wanted to wait. And he said no originally, or wasn't wanting to do it, and it ruffled some feathers. And so after a long talk, and we went through some things with his management, with Danny Ruby, figuring some things out, and we said yes. And we've basically just been saying yes ever since. And I think that he has reached a point now, not only where his fighting style is entertaining, even if he's making decisions, it's entertaining. The fans love him. He's a likable guy. He's a champion that does everything the right way. He's a champion that's never going to fail a drug test. He's a champion that's never going to cheat. He's a champion that you're never going to hear him getting pulled over for a DUI or for this or for that. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke. He's got all of his ducks in a row, and now he's playing the game. And I do think that it has changed. I do think even at this event, talking to some of the higher ups, they love him, and I really think he's earned it by doing what he needs to do. And I think that, he really has a big chance of getting the push to become a megastar now.
It's funny. We saw the video. I'm sure you saw it on Saturday at Merab the event. He's driving away in the van, and they stop so he can meet with the Georgian fans when they were outside waiting for him. I love it.
Every time. And they know it now. So they post up where the vans come out, and there's always a crowd, and they know it. If he pulls up and you have a Georgian flag, especially, he's jumping out and he's talking to everybody. It's great.
As coach at Syndicate, John, you've coached a lot of great fighters, a lot of champions. So I don't certainly want to negate some of the work you've done. Obviously, you've been there for Zhang Weili and some of her championship wins. And obviously, I know you're very close with Khalil. He has a massive fight coming up in a couple of weeks. But I loved, when your guy acknowledges you, like, what does it mean to you in the cage? He's got that belt on his shoulder. And listen, in that moment, he's got a million things run through his head, whatever. And he specifically stops and says, thank you to John Wood. Like, what does that mean to you as a coach? I know you don't look for that. I know you don't need that necessarily, but what does that mean to you when a guy in the biggest moment of his career, and every title fight is the biggest moment of your career, to stop and acknowledge you like that? I know it means the world.
Oh, it really does. I'd be a liar if I sat here and said that it didn't, give me all the feels. And I think I might have shed a tear or two in that fight. And I've never. That's the most excited I've ever been. I think in any fight, and not saying that I haven't been part of a lot of great fights and camps and things, but just to see him go out and do what he did. But the acknowledgment's always great. That's human nature. I don't do this. I legitimately love what I do, and I'm blessed and fortunate, and couldn't think about anything else I'd rather do than what I do. But when somebody does do that, it does feel really good, and it is awesome. And I'm really glad that if my name or my team gets mentioned, it was a team effort. I wouldn't be able to be out there and doing it. I just had a coaches meeting without all my coaches here handling what they handle. It's such a team effort from the bottom down. So, if my name or the gym name gets mentioned, it's because we're doing our job. We're doing what we're supposed to do. But it feels great. Like there's all kinds of things, that you just you don't expect it, you don't do it for that purpose. So when it does happen, it's awesome. Like I said, it gives you all the warm, fuzzy feelings, and it's great to be acknowledged for the jobs that we're all busting our asses to do.
Now, real quick before I get you out of here, of course, I mentioned you got to fly a very long trip over to Azerbaijan very soon. Khalil Rountree, I know we talked about that the last time.
Even before that, I'm jumping back on a flight tonight to go back to New York to meet Merab to go to Georgia for a couple days.
So you're going over to Georgia with the champ.
Yeah, yeah. So that'll be cool.
We heard the story last time he beats O'Malley, and he has the next day he has Daniel Cormier coming over to his house, and he's out on a run. And Dan DC's like, I had to wait because he's on a run. What was it like? Did he actually take a day off, or no days off from Merab after the fight?
No. If Merab was here today, he's still in New York. As I said, he's in a flight to Georgia. He would be back on the mats today. The dude does not stop, and he doesn't allow. He's so worried about letting himself become complacent as champion or become any kind of thing different. He doesn't change anything, and that's why he's going to hold on to that belt for a long time. Because not only is he doing what he does and continuing to keep doing it, but he's doing more. Like I said, this guy, the work and effort that he puts into everything. He really is a freaking machine. The work and effort, not only into himself, but his teammates. He corners everybody. He shows up for training camp. He does everything that he doesn't need to do. He still does it and does more. So he is not a day off type of guy. After these kind of things, we try to make him like, hey man, enjoy, go, like, get out of the country. But I guarantee you, he'll end up training somewhere in Georgia. He'll find there. He'll be running. He doesn't stop. That's what makes him special.
It's going to be the scene of him arriving in Georgia is going to be insane. I can only imagine. Like, talking about rock star. I mean, he's a rock star in the States now too, but I mean, over there,
oh, yeah.
It's just like, just like when, Conor would go home to Ireland or Khabib would go home to Russia. Like when he lands in Georgia, dude, it's going to be insane. I'm sure that's going to be quite a scene over there.
Yeah, that's why, like, honestly, I'm actually going back to New York to meet him and fly over on the same flight with him. We're all a bunch of, the UFC is actually going to cover it. And that's the kind of cool thing is, like, they're going to cover his Heroes Welcome. There's a big, huge, crazy thing going on. So, we've been trying to plan to get over to Georgia for a while now. It's something I wanted to see where he's from and meet the people because, dude, the Georgian people, the culture is amazing. Like, I love those people. Like, and the guys that we have in the gym, they really have helped just build the culture of our team and rebuild the culture of our team. So there's such amazing guys and people. And I mean, the love that I get from Georgia after he fight, I mean, I have hundreds, if not thousands by now of, Georgians just reaching out and just saying the nicest things, and they can't wait to come over, meet me over there. It's just like, it's awesome. So I'm really excited to see that and experience that with him. I'm excited for him because he really does deserve all the love.
I love it. I love it. Well, obviously, Coach, it never slows down for you. We're celebrating right now, but I know you're already shifting gears back into coach mode with your team at Syndicate. Of course, I mentioned, Khalil has a big fight coming up just a couple weeks away. So I hope you did get at least a day or so to celebrate. Enjoy it because you definitely earned it as well. I know you always give the credit to Merab, but you've earned it as well. You guys are a team, and obviously it takes as they say, it takes a nation, so to speak. So enjoy the win, enjoy the victory. It was an incredible performance. Somehow even better than it was before. And I can't wait to see Khalil go out there and do his thing in a couple weeks. And I've said you're one of the top coaches in the sport. You continue to prove that with every single fight out there. So thank you. You're a very, very busy guy. I always appreciate giving me the time. Can't wait to see what's next. And tell Merab congratulations from me, please.
Will do. Hey, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you having me on, and it's always an honor to come on here and talk about stuff I love to do. So thank you.